It's around 3 in the morning, you open your eyes in the dark again. Your body feels heavy with sleep, but your bladder is calling you out of bed for the second, maybe the third time tonight. You walk to the bathroom half asleep, you sit, you wait, you empty your bladder, or at least you think you do. Then you crawl back into bed, only to feel that same pressure return not long after. And in that quiet moment, staring at the ceiling, you may have whispered to yourself, is this just my life now? Is this just what happens when you get older? Let me tell you something very gently and very clearly. It is not normal to wake up again and again every night just because you are aging. And this is not about weak willpower. It is not because you drink too much water. And it is not something you simply have to accept. This is a physical problem. And the beautiful truth is, it is often a correctable one. Today, I want to share with you one single fruit, along with a small, gentle protocol that has helped many seniors empty the bladder more completely and reduce those exhausting nighttime trips to the bathroom, naturally, without forcing the body and without harsh solutions. And there is a reason almost no one talks about this, because it is surprisingly simple. Now, before we go any further, I want to invite you into something a little special. If you would like me to send you a small gift that completes what I'm going to share today, write in the comments, I want to stop waking up at night, or I want to improve my sleep, and I will make sure you receive it. Now let's talk about what is really happening inside your body when the night keeps pulling you out of bed. What you're experiencing has a name. It's called nocturia. It simply means waking up during the night to urinate. And I want you to hear this very clearly. This is extremely common in seniors. So common that many people believe it's just a normal part of aging. But common does not mean normal. And it certainly does not mean harmless. When you wake up once, twice, sometimes 3 or 4 times a night, your sleep becomes fragmented. Your body never reaches that deep healing rest it needs to repair itself. And then the next morning you wake up tired, even after being in bed all night. That fatigue follows you through the day. You feel slower, your patience is shorter, your mood is lower, and your body feels heavier than it should. And here's something that most people don't talk about enough. Those nighttime trips to the bathroom increase your risk of falling. Your balance is not the same in the dark. Your muscles are cold. Your blood pressure can shift suddenly when you stand up. And all it takes is one bad step, one moment of dizziness, and life can change very quickly. But beyond the physical risks, there is something deeper that happens too, because this is not just about going to the bathroom. It is about losing your rest. It is about losing your energy. And slowly, without even noticing it, it can chip away at your confidence. You begin to plan your nights around the bathroom. You avoid long sleep. You accept exhaustion as your new normal. And that breaks my heart, because your body was designed for rest. Deep, restoring, uninterrupted rest. And the fact that you're waking up night after night is not your fault. It is your body asking for help in the only way it knows how. Now let me explain in the simplest way what is really happening inside your body. Your bladder is not just a simple storage bag for urine. It is a living, sensitive muscle. And over time, that muscle can become irritated and inflamed. When that happens, it begins to send signals too early. Even when the bladder is not truly full, it tells the brain, go now, don't wait. That is what we call an overactive detrusor muscle. It contracts before it should. It tightens instead of relaxing fully. And that makes it very hard to empty the bladder completely. In men, there is another layer to this story. The prostate sits right beneath the bladder. And when it becomes enlarged or inflamed, it presses gently, but constantly, on the urinary channel. That pressure weakens the flow. And when the flow is weak, the bladder never truly finishes its job. In women, the problem often shows up differently. The pelvic floor may be weak, the urinary tissues may be irritated, and the bladder loses some of the support it needs to empty calmly and completely. Different bodies, but the same frustrating outcome. And now I want to gently clear up one of the biggest mistakes people make. Many are told, just drink less water. But that is not the real solution. Dehydration actually concentrates the urine. It makes it more irritating to the bladder lining. And that can make the urgency even worse. The true solution is not to suppress the signal. It is not to ignore the urge. And it is not to force the body into dryness. The real solution is to calm the inflammation, to relax the bladder muscle, and to strengthen the systems that support proper emptying. Because when the bladder is relaxed, it fills properly, and when it fills properly, it empties properly. This is not about holding on longer, it is about restoring natural function. And once you understand that, everything about solving nighttime urination begins to change. Now, before I reveal the fruit itself, I want you to understand something very important. Not every healthy food helps the bladder at night. In fact, some foods that are wonderful during the day can actually make nighttime urination worse. So what does a true healing food for the bladder need to do? First, it must help calm inflammation, because when the bladder is inflamed, it becomes noisy. It sends false alarms to the brain. It creates urgency when there shouldn't be any. Second, it must gently improve circulation in the pelvic area. The bladder, like every other organ, needs healthy blood flow to repair its tissues and carry away irritation. Third, it must support relaxation of the bladder muscle itself, not force it, not stimulate it, but softly signal the body that it is safe to let go and to empty fully. And finally, it must not irritate the urinary system at night. No harsh acids, no heavy sugars, no stimulants that wake the nervous system back up when it should be drifting into rest. When you think about it this way, the list becomes very small, very, very small. And this is where it becomes truly fascinating, because there is one fruit in particular, one humble fruit, that naturally checks all of these boxes better than almost any expensive supplement or pill. It calms, it circulates, it relaxes. And it does so without disturbing your sleep. And that is the fruit I want to share with you now, the fruit I am speaking about, the one that I have recommended more times than I can count in my practice, is watermelon. Yes, watermelon. And I know what you might be thinking. Barbara, watermelon is mostly water. Won't that make me go even more? And that is exactly why timing and form change everything. Because watermelon is not just water, it is one of nature's most powerful bladder-relaxing fruits when used correctly. Let me explain what it does inside your body. At the level of the bladder, watermelon does 3 essential things. First, it helps calm inflammation. Watermelon contains natural anti-inflammatory compounds that quiet the irritated lining of the bladder. When that irritation settles, the bladder stops sending false urgency signals to the brain. Second, it relaxes the smooth muscle of the bladder. Inside watermelon is a natural amino acid called citrulline. Your body converts citrulline into nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is what tells smooth muscle to soften, to widen, to release. That means the bladder can fill more calmly, and when you empty it, it can empty more completely. No spasms, no leftover irritation, no constant "I still have to go" feeling. Third, watermelon gently improves microcirculation in the pelvic area. Better circulation means better oxygen, better repair, and better communication between the bladder and the nervous system. Now let me tell you what it does for the night specifically. When your bladder is relaxed, well circulated, and no longer inflamed, your nervous system finally receives the correct message. It is safe to rest. There is no emergency. And that message alone reduces nighttime awakenings. Watermelon also provides gentle hydration and natural electrolytes like potassium. These help your kidneys regulate fluid properly instead of dumping it suddenly in the middle of the night. Now here is where most people make the mistake. They eat watermelon late at night, and that is the wrong timing, because taken too close to bedtime, any fluid can trigger a wake-up. Instead, watermelon must be used as a pre-night tool, not a midnight snack. When taken in the late afternoon or early evening, it allows the bladder to empty completely before sleep begins. It calms the tissue, It relaxes the muscle. It finishes the job of drainage. So during the night, there is simply nothing left to expel. And this is why I always say, this is not magic. This is biology used at the right time. A small bowl of fresh watermelon eaten earlier in the evening becomes a message to your bladder. You can relax now. You can empty fully. You don't need to wake this person up tonight. And that is exactly what so many of my patients begin to notice within days. They don't just wake up less. They wake up calmer. They feel empty without strain. And for the first time in years, the night belongs to their sleep again. Now, I need to protect you from a few very common mistakes, because I have seen people use the right fruit and still get no results, not because the fruit failed them, but because the way they used it worked against their own body. The first mistake is eating only part of the fruit and throwing away the most valuable portion. With watermelon, many people eat only the very sweet red center. But the highest concentration of citrulline, the compound that relaxes the bladder muscle, is found closer to the lighter flesh near the rind. If you always discard that part, you lose much of the relaxing effect that makes this fruit so powerful for the bladder. The second mistake is combining it with heavy sugar, desserts, alcohol, or very dense dinners. When you flood your body with sugar or alcohol at the same time, you cancel the calming signal you are trying to send to your bladder and nervous system. Instead of relaxing, the body becomes stimulated, the kidneys become overactive, and the bladder becomes confused. It is not the fruit's fault. It is the environment in which you place it. The third mistake is taking it far too late and with large amounts of extra liquid. I say this with love and clarity. Watermelon is not meant to be your midnight snack if your goal is uninterrupted sleep. If you eat it right before bed and then drink extra water on top, you are simply giving your bladder more work to do during the night. Timing is what turns this fruit into a healing tool or into a disruption. And the fourth mistake is the one that comes from good intentions but creates poor results. People think if a little is good, a lot must be better. So they eat huge bowls, and then they wonder why they are waking up more. The bladder responds to volume. Even when the fruit is healing, too much fluid at once will override the benefit. This is why I always remind my patients, you are not trying to flood the system. You are teaching the system. It is not about eating mountains of fruit. It is about using the right amount at the right time in the right way. When that happens, the body understands the message. And when the body understands the message, the night becomes quiet again. Now let me show you how to use this fruit in a way that truly supports your bladder, instead of working against it. Because timing, amount, and simplicity matter just as much as the fruit itself. In my experience, the most supportive moment to enjoy this fruit is in the late afternoon or early evening. Not right before bed, but not too early either. Think of it as preparing your bladder for the night ahead, not challenging it at the last minute. For most people, that window is about 1 to 2 hours after your main afternoon meal, when digestion is active, circulation is smooth, and the body is still awake enough to process fluids calmly. Now, about quantity. This is not about filling a large bowl. This is about giving your body a gentle signal. A small portion is enough, just a few relaxed bites, enough to deliver the compounds that calm the bladder muscle without flooding the system. I always tell my patients to stop when the body still feels light, not full. As for how to eat it, keep it simple. Soft pieces are perfect. No icy cold temperature, no blending into large drinks at night. Your bladder loves gentle input, not sudden shocks. If you like, you can pair it with something light, a few nuts, a small piece of cheese, or something warm later that brings comfort without volume. Now let me share what helps this fruit work even better. Keep your evening meals simple. Heavy, salty, or very spicy dinners make the bladder irritable. Limit caffeine after the early afternoon. And try not to sip large amounts of liquid continuously in the evening. This is not about restriction. This is about rhythm. When the rhythm is right, the bladder learns to rest. And now, let me tell you the quiet signs that this is starting to work. At first, you may notice that the urgency late in the evening feels softer, not so sharp, not so sudden. You may feel that when you do go to the bathroom, the stream feels more complete, less interrupted, less rushed. And over time, the number of nighttime awakenings begins to drop, not suddenly, not dramatically at first, but steadily. And one night, you will realize you slept longer than usual. That is when you know the body is listening and the bladder is learning peace again. Let me share with you what this has looked like in real lives, because behind every symptom, there is a person who is tired of being tired. I remember a gentleman in his early 70s, strong voice, quiet eyes. He told me that for years he hadn't slept more than 2 hours in a row, 3 trips, to the bathroom every single night, sometimes 4. He said the worst part wasn't the walking, it was the feeling of never truly resting, always half awake, always waiting for the next urge. He started using this fruit gently in the late afternoon, not perfectly, not obsessively, just consistently. The first change he noticed wasn't fewer bathroom trips, it was something deeper. He said, "Barbara, my body feels less anxious in the evening now." After about 2 weeks, the third awakening disappeared. After another few weeks, some nights became just 1. And the day he came back and said, "I slept 5 hours without getting up," his voice shook, not because of the number, but because of what it meant: rest, recovery, hope. And then there was a woman in her late 60s, soft-spoken, always holding her purse close when she walked. She told me she was afraid to leave the house in the evening, afraid she wouldn't reach the bathroom in time. That fear slowly shrinks your world. First you stop evening walks, then social dinners, then visits. Then joy becomes smaller. She didn't ask for miracles. She only wanted to feel safer in her own body. She used the same approach, slowly, gently, with trust. A few weeks later, she said something that stayed with me. "Barbara, I walked past the bathroom last night and didn't panic. That is not just bladder improvement. That is freedom returning. And this is what I want you to understand. These are not overnight transformations. This is not magic. This is your body responding to being supported instead of suppressed. And the greatest change is not only what happens in the bladder. The greatest change is what happens inside you. Your confidence returns. Your nervous system softens. And you stop seeing your body as an enemy. You start seeing it as something that still knows how to heal. Now let me tell you how this usually unfolds inside the body, because healing has a rhythm. And when you understand that rhythm, you stop feeling impatient and you start feeling hopeful. In the first week, the changes are often subtle. You may notice that the urgency in the evening feels a little softer, not gone, but less sharp. The stream may feel slightly more continuous, less interrupted, less strained. These are quiet signs, easy to miss if you're not expecting them, but they matter. During the second and third weeks, something more noticeable often begins. The nighttime awakenings may become fewer, or the space between them becomes longer. Instead of waking every hour, you may suddenly sleep 2 hours, then 3. And when that happens, the body finally enters deeper repair. By the first month, many people describe a new sensation, a feeling of emptying more completely, a feeling of not carrying that constant pressure. Sleep becomes longer, rest becomes deeper, and during the day, energy starts to return, not in bursts, but steadily. This is when people say to me, "I don't feel so drained anymore." And this is important. These shifts do not come from forcing the body. They come from studying it, respecting it, and feeding it what it needs. Now, I want to speak to you with care and responsibility. If there is pain when you urinate, if there is blood in the urine, if there is fever, burning, or sudden severe changes, these are not things to ignore. In those cases, it is always important to speak with your doctor right away. Natural support works best when it walks alongside proper medical guidance, not against it. This path is about restoring balance, not replacing wisdom with fear, not replacing care with chance. When you honor both, your body feels safe enough to heal. Now, I want to speak to something much deeper than the bladder itself, because for many of you, this struggle is not just physical. It carries fear. It carries embarrassment. It carries the quiet worry of losing control, and that is very heavy to live with. Some of you avoid staying over at other people's homes. Some of you sit closer to the bathroom in public places. Some of you stop traveling. Some of you pretend it doesn't bother you, but inside it hurts your dignity. So let me tell you this slowly and clearly. You are not weak. Your bladder has simply been asking for help in the only way it knows how. Urgency is not a betrayal. It is a signal, a tired signal, a strained signal, but still a signal. And the most beautiful truth I have learned in all my years of work is this: even at 70, even at 80, even later than that, the body still responds when it is finally given what it has been missing. Cells still listen, muscles still soften, nerves still remember how to calm, and sleep can still become whole again. You do not have to accept broken nights as the final chapter of your life. You do not have to believe that waking again and again is just how it is now. It is possible to sleep through the night again. It is possible to wake up without that heavy pressure. It is possible to feel safe in your own body again. Not as a memory from the past, but as something you live again, and you deserve that peace. Before we part tonight, I want to remind you of the small gift I mentioned at the beginning. If you would like me to send it to you, just write in the comments. Very simply, I want to improve my health. When I see your message, I will know you are ready to begin this gently and with intention. And if you feel comfortable, I would love for you to share something else in the comments too. Tell me how many times you are getting up right now during the night. Once, twice, 3 times or more. And then tell me who you will dedicate your first full night of rest to when it comes back to you. Maybe your partner, maybe your family, maybe your future self. If this message has brought you comfort, clarity, or even a little hope, I invite you to give this video a like. And if you wish to stay with us, to keep learning gentle, natural ways to care for your body as the years pass, I would be honored if you subscribe. This is a quiet community of seniors who are choosing rest instead of exhaustion, dignity instead of frustration, and trust instead of fear. And now let us end the day the way your body has been longing for. Imagine yourself lying down tonight. The room is quiet, your breathing is slow, your bladder is calm, your muscles soften into the bed. There is no rush, no urgency, no fear of getting up again, just the simple feeling of being held by rest. You are safe, you are supported, and tonight you are allowed to sleep. Good night, my friend.